Hello and welcome to the Lead Generation Strategies podcast. I am your host, Joey Myers. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Generation SEO Services.com, and that's an S at the end of services, and in Fuego Media. We get companies more customers, clients, or patients by creating branded multimedia content using a mix of AI or artificial intelligence, software automation, and fantastic writers. And then we distribute that content to over 400 partnership sites, over 200 of those being media sites like Fox and ABC and NBC. And traffic and rankings can be seen within a 48 hours after publishing. So today I want to welcome on Brandon Neely. So I was on his podcast talking marketing on his wealth podcast. So his company is Wealth Wisdom Financial Partners. And I like his little tagline, your guides to grow and protect foundational wealth. And his website is Wealth Wisdom F is in Fred, P is in Peter.com. He is, and we'll go into some of these things as we go here, but he's a Profit First certified wealth person. And that's something I've got dug into a little bit, and we'll talk about that. So first, Brandon, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joey. I'm excited to be here. I don't have as fun of background as you do, so I did a virtual background because just got an office and there's no pictures behind me, so made my own picture.
That's okay. I love all the different backgrounds, and when we have our podcasts, and some have the logos and cool spots, and some use that little where it says Joey Myers or Brandon Neely up there in that bottom left corner. They'll put the website, they'll put their number, kind of cool stuff. We've learned a lot over these last couple of years for sure. Right. So give people a little bit of a background, where you're at, Brandon, maybe in the last couple of years, what your expertise is in.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this as you're a content writer, and been doing this. I used to own a coffee shop, and someone talked to me the other day. They're like, man, I met you. I didn't realize you have a lot of content. You've been doing videos and articles for a long time. I was like, yeah, since 2017 or I think it's 2011 when we started blogging. We used to own a coffee shop, and this is hilarious. We actually took pictures every day on a blog to let people know about our coffee shop starting. So that was some of my past, right? Starting a business. Later, that became Instagram. We're like, wait, we were Instagramming before Instagram became a thing. Daily pictures and showing. Anyway, so I used to own a coffee shop, learned a lot of what to do and what not to do, more of what not to do than what to do. And sold that business because I had some major things that I might get back to that had us position into something else, because I also have a 4-year-old. I don't have a picture behind me of him. Maybe that's later, but sold that business to do the family thing. And one of the reasons we sold it was because it's kind of illegal to have a baby behind the bar and all that fun stuff. We're like, well, we need to make a change.
It's illegal over there.
My wife said,
legal over there
to have them. It is kind of illegal, I think, at least health department code,
right?
So we literally, my wife said, go get a job now. I interviewed to work with a friend of mine who sells whole life insurance. And I was like, hey, this whole life thing really helped me as a business owner overcome some major obstacles and to be able to do what we've done now. So let me try it. And he said, no, I'm not going to hire you. And I was like, why not? And he said, well, you're too entrepreneurial. I need an employee, not a entrepreneur, because you'll screw everything up. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. I thought I would be good at this. Then 2 months later, he says, I have an idea. How about you and your wife both do the business and I'll train you both. And my wife's 7 months pregnant. So like no one's going to hire her. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up going into from coffee to this financial services world, which is really strange. I call myself a reluctant financial professional, mainly because I didn't get into it to make a lot of money. I got into it to make a difference. And I love the systems of profit first. And I love the infinite banking system because it's a cash flow management system, both of them. And they just work really well in this world of business ownership. So that's a little bit of what we do.
Yeah, very cool. Now, were you in the past, like going into the time machine, were you good with numbers before or financial stuff before going into this? Or was this just like a fish out of water type thing for you?
Oh, it's still sometimes a fish out of water, right? I mean, let's be honest, like, you know, running a business and knowing numbers, I think there's a balance, right? So my wife is more of the back of the house type person, meaning taxes and all of that stuff. And you need that, right? Excel spreadsheets and that type thing. And I was more of the front of the house, right? You know, service, clients, you know, the face, if you will, for a lot of that. But it wouldn't have gotten done without her or me. And so I know how to talk things through, but doing Excel still, I think it's against me all the time. But my wife does say it's not Excel's fault, it's yours. Most of the time.
Yeah.
So, but knowing how to read a P&L statement, knowing those things, I think is really, really important. And a lot of business owners don't even know that. And you don't have to like know how the pie is made, right? But you need to like at least understand what the outside looks like, right? How can you make good decisions? That's why Profit First is another powerful system.
So you mentioned that. Go into what Profit First is in a nutshell. There's a book out called Profit First, and I can't remember the author's name. You probably could.
It's Mike Michalowicz.
Mike Michalowicz,
right here. Yeah, Profit.
There it is, right there. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, if you just put Profit First in Amazon, as long as it looks like that. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the Profit First system and why, say if it's a real estate company, a realtor, or dental practice, or service-based industry business owner, why it would be important for them to do something like that.
Yeah. So there's different sub brands of Profit First, I guess, or not sub brands, but books. So there's ones for Profit First for real estate investors and lawn care professionals or something like that. So each business is a little different, has different nuances. But in essence, what happens a lot of times is a lot of business owners don't take profit, you know, because it's the reverse is sales minus expenses equal profit, right? That's what is in dictionary definition and all that stuff. But what Mike says is put profit first, take care of yourself, you know, owner's comp, and then taxes, and then OPEX, right? Because what Mike says is we often create cash-eating monsters, always wants more, especially in the marketing world, right? If you don't know your numbers, if you don't, you could spend a ton of money on banners and Facebook ads and this and that, and be like, oh, well, where's it all going? You know what I mean? And so,
or there's nothing coming back.
There's nothing coming back. So we have to know our numbers and make it more lean as opposed to fat, right? And so the system is just having kind of like Dave Ramsey, different accounts. So I'm eating on smaller plates, right? Does that make sense? So instead of having one giant bucket of money that we think we have, and then we spend it and forget that we had something else that we needed to do, we create smaller plates that for taxes, for OPEX, for owner's pay. And again, business owners, most of the time, they either are overspending, overpaying themselves, or not paying themselves at all. So I love that the system just says, oh yeah, here's your compensation. This is what the numbers say.
Right. And what's cool, and I urge people to go to your website, wealthwisdomfp.com, right? So you can go there, and he's got is it education? Is it the education tab at the top? Yeah. He's got a lot. Brand's got a lot of, and some of those are shared with your wife, a lot of really good content on their podcast episodes and things like that. And you can just read he's got great headlines that give you a good idea of what the episode's about. And you can really learn for those that are, on their plate, they've been thinking about the financial side of their business and getting that in order. So there's a lot of cool stuff there, but I wanted to go in what caught my attention. And you also told me to kind of focus in on this brand of financial. I don't know if it's one of those you said sub things like profit first, profit first lawn care, profit first real estate, right? But infinite banking versus velocity banking. So I've never heard of those before. Can you go into those? I think you have one podcast that is infinite banking versus the velocity banking.
Yeah. So velocity banking is using the bank, right? So let's say you have a HELOC and you have this interest rate that you can lower, right? Or put a lot through your HELOC to use the bank to effectively pay lower interest, right? So you're using the interest rate to your favor, right? So with the HELOC strategy
and what's the HELOC again, Brandon? For those that don't.
Yeah. So if you have a house, right, you might take a asset, you take a loan against your asset, you have a line of credit that you're able to use and systemize, right? And so then a lot of people use this velocity banking if they're high interest debt and they want to get out of debt, because this is the problem in our world. Interest rates are insanely high sometimes, 22% to buy you get something and then you're paying a quarter on top of that dollar for that. And most people don't even realize how that's working. So that velocity banking is helping us think strategically about interest rates and using the asset of our house to overcome that. Or, maybe it's using other banks, other credit cards to spin it, right? But I don't particularly like as much velocity banking because the control is still in the banking side. Because the banks can say, oh, I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. 2008, people had that line of credit going, and the banks called the loans, right? They said, oh, well, you need to pay this now. That sucks.
Right. So would an example of that
have the power to.
So would an example of that be like somebody if they had a high interest credit card debt, they had a credit card, high interest, they had a big amount on there, and then they went to the house, they took a HELOC loan that had an interest rate of, say the credit card was 22%, like you said, and then the HELOC's like 4%. That's like what that's doing is you're just getting that loan, getting it into, and the HELOC, what's the, because there's a bunch of different loans, there's ARMs so what's the benefit of a HELOC?
Yeah. And I'm not in the velocity banking industry so much as I understand a lot of those.
Got it.
And there's so many variations on this. And the other thing is, oh my gosh, things keep changing every 5 seconds on the banking side,
right?
Where something might have worked right after 2020 when the interest rates were going down, which they shouldn't have, but they were, right? And now they're going up, right? And we're saying, oh, 6% is not that bad. Whereas, a year and a half ago, we're like, 6%, I never do that.
Yeah.
Right. And things are shifting so much in that space that it's so hard to keep track of. That's why the infinite banking side is a little more stabilized. And I still have a line of credit that I'm building, if you will, like my policy's cash value is growing. It is just instead of the house being the collateral, right? A life insurance policy is on me, and I'm taking a loan against the policy. And instead of that house being the thing, I am the house, right? And so I'm able to use it, and there's a lot more contractual things that I like about it. That as I access the money, it's 5% simple interest, right? And I can use that, which I have, to build wealth, right? So I used my life insurance policy to get out of an emergency at the coffee shop level, which has sucked, and I don't want emergencies to happen, but they do, right? And usually, this is the hard part. Why I don't like velocity banking is, what do they say? A banker is a fellow that lends you his umbrella when it's sunny outside, but takes it back when it's raining. I feel like we're going to be coming into a raining season. I'm not sure what that's going to look like.
Without umbrellas,
and
some of us.
Yeah. And some of us, the umbrellas we think we have are going to be taken from us. I don't know. That did happen previously. And so I want to be aware and use maybe some of that, if you understand, because velocity banking requires a lot of due diligence, because you need to understand your interest rates, paying off early, doing those kind of things. So that way you're not accumulating interest, right? Whereas for my velocity banking, I know it's 5% simple interest on my loan. I used it to buy a property, 20% down, paid it back to myself, right? Because it's going back into my policy as a line of credit. And then I just used my policy again to buy a commercial real estate building. And so it's a combination sometimes of both. But for me, I don't want to be dependent on the bank in case they decide to change things. And on the flip side, right, on the insurance company side, they do in the contract say, oh, well, we could maybe raise our interest rates, but they can't raise them like crazy or call loans or anything like that, because it's in the contract what it says there. And I'm like, this is a lot better. I like it this way.
So you become the bank versus using the actual bank. That's what happens in infinite banking. Yeah. And what I always tell people, don't do what the banks tell you to do. Do what the banks do. Right.
They are the most profitable business in the world for obvious reasons. Even the Federal Reserve, like, we think that the Fed controls everything, or they have, the Fed is neither federal nor reserve. Right. That's true. Who are they accountable to? Oh, there's like 24 banks that really control things. And I'm like, what is happening? Why is interest rates? And we could debate and all that stuff. But in the end, I'm like, well, the banking system has more power than anything, and every business owner is in the banking business. Every person. So
I love that.
Learn it.
I love that advice. Don't do as the banks tell you what to do, but do what they do.
Yeah.
Themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And they are the largest buyer of life insurance, because that's their safe money capital, right? They use their money to make more money. So I use my cash value. I could use it to buy a car, but I don't particularly like that idea,
right?
Because that's just using it for a liability, right?
Depreciation.
I like to use it for maybe a syndication deal, real estate deal. My business, I might invest in, I don't know, a marketing
acquisition,
and then pay it back. Acquisition. There's so much, and I will literally whiteboard this all day long as I have the assets. And then the funny thing is, as you have liquidity and assets to money, people come out and ask you, hey, I have a deal for you. And I have this for you. And I get pitches all day long nowadays. I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet, but it's starting to happen more and more regularly. I'm like, it's because I have access.
Right. Right.
That's an awesome thing.
Very cool. Well, thank you for all that advice. I know in any service-based industry, real estate, dental, that's a big help for them. Something that I didn't know about the infinite banking, and I have a life insurance policy, and I'm check into that for future stuff. So I appreciate that, Brandon. Now this wouldn't be a lead generation strategies podcast without talking a little lead generation. So with a little bit of the time that we have left, I know you, and I brought you on as more of like an expert in things that I wanted to share with that group with that group of businesses. So what are kind of the couple top things that you do for lead generation for Wealth Wisdom Financial?
Yeah, I think having regular content, right? One of the things I've learned in this industry is a lot of things happen over time. Like, I mean, you and me, right? You don't know me except for podcasts, right? And we've had a few conversations. But what I love about writing and content is you build trust over time. Some people may listen to you for a long time before they pull a trigger, right? Especially in this industry. And there's a lot of education that happens, or I don't know, there's a lot of bad marketing, if you want to call it, like not accurate stuff that we have to combat. And so some of it is, hey, my podcast and YouTube, some of it is lead generation. A lot is just educating my people as they come through the pipeline, right? And so knowing sometimes it's different. A lot of times people go into podcasting thinking it's going to generate leads. I'm like, no, it's more of a educating them to relational, then pull a trigger.
Yeah, building relationships, getting them to earn, know, like, and trust you, basically.
Yeah. And I think the main thing is being present. Like you do things with being on a radio, or the advertising in those areas. The more that people see you on associated to those kind of things, but good or bad or ugly, whatever, it doesn't matter. People then say there's a trust factor that's built just on that alone, right? So how do you build that from a business owner, small business owner? When you do like a video with somebody who's high profile, all of a sudden your trust factor went up because you're connected to, I don't know, Shark Tank people or something. I can't remember
some of the characters on there. Mark Cuban.
Yeah, Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, if you're listening and you want to be on my show, totally reach out to me. I'd love to have you.
Yeah. May have to have. Go ahead.
I'm sure, Joey, I'm sure you wouldn't mind Mark Cuban joining on your show either, right?
So yeah, I might have to have him fill out an application though, just to see if he's
legit, right? Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, media, or the media side of it too, but the content I totally agree with. And like you said, people think that starting a podcast is going to get them a lot of leads. And I think in the long run, it does. I mean, you'll have people, like you said, listen to you for 2 months and they pull the trigger, or a year and they pull the trigger, but it's not so much a lead generation. It's more of a, earning the know, like, and trust factor and increasing that. But the more content you put out, the more people open up and they pull their walls down. And I know you do a lot of, you mentioned some like the paid advertising and things like that. And I think it all just works together. And I think last time we talked, we were talking about that on your podcast, that 40 to 50% of traffic should be coming through for a company, should be coming through organic and Google. And what are people looking at on Google organic? They're looking at content. So they're looking at different pieces. Could be a podcast, could be a YouTube video, like you're mentioning on somebody was found you before we jumped on. This could be a talk for another day, but mental health and finances, right? Something like that, where they find you and nobody else is talking about a certain topic or whatever, and they find you. So, but anyway, I appreciate your time today, Brandon. Where can people find you? And then we'll kind of go into a formal outro.
Yeah. So totally go to wealthwisdomfp.com. We have, if you go to wealthwisdomfp.com/report, there is a special report that we built talking about the infinite banking concept and how money really works, especially, and it's the special report is, about these W-2 workers and not how to build wealth outside of a W-2, right? Because that's the challenge that we face is as more and more people are in this independent contractor world, we need to build wealth, and we don't have somebody there. So we've created this report, understanding how that flow works. That's why I love life insurance, regardless of what other people say. And it's just amazing. It's an amazing tool that can help amplify. And then, of course, go to our YouTube channel, podcast. And really the biggest way, if you want to chat, just there's go to the website, you'll find everything. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Well, thanks, Brandon. Let me do a outro here, and then we'll shake hands and part ways. So if you like this podcast episode, then please like, review, and/or share it. We really appreciate the feedback, both Brandon and myself. If you're interested in hearing more about our branded multimedia marketing events, then please visit Lead Generation SEO Services, again, an S at the end of that.com, and click on the marketing events link to watch a 3 to 4 minute video overview. So I'll give you a little overview in a nutshell. So Brandon Neely, his company is Wealth Wisdom Financial Partners. Again, his tagline, your guides to grow and protect foundational wealth. His website, as he mentioned, is Wealth Wisdom FP, F is in Frank, P is in Peter.com. And like he mentioned, you can download his special report to help you secure your financial future outside of a W-2 in 5 simple steps. And he mentioned the website there for that, wealthwisdomfp.com/report. So Brandon, thank you again for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Joey.
You got it. All right, hold on one second.